It's the Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? It is that time of the week again. It is podcast time, and man, do we have a loaded show for you guys and gals tonight. I'm pretty sure the NBA broke the internet today, or you could say the FBI did. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got the World Series tomorrow. We're going to talk about the series leading up to that, as well as kind of give you a little predictions, give you some odds, and just kind of a look ahead at the series that is the Dodgers and Blue Jays, which I have a very good feeling if you would have told me the Blue Jays are going to be in the World Series at the beginning of the season, I would have told you you're an absolute liar. Most everyone had them coming in last in the American League East, let alone being in the World Series. So kind of it's a really cool story. It is I'm not really not buying into the whole David versus Goliath type thing here. Just by looking at their lineups, but yeah, we've got that. We've got our pick'ems, our paycheck and onions. We've got uh, our power rankings. So and then of course we have an NFL slate to talk about. We have a college football slate to talk about. We've got Chargers and Vikings going on the big screen. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. I am super excited about this. Super excited. Not so much the kind of the start of the show here, but once we get into the meat and potatoes, it's going to be really good. But let's start with the big news that came out today. NBA coach players in trouble, and this will probably be the only time that we see FBI Director Kash Patel on the show. 30 plus arrests, 11 states, one nationwide takedown. Today, the FBI dismantled a multi-million-dollar gambling ring tied to La Costa Nostra, including current and former NBA players and coaches, as well as an inside scheme to rig sports betting outcomes for profit. Cheating, corruption, and laundering have consequences. We followed the money, and the law caught up. Great work at New York FBI and partners. Kind of expand a little bit on this. This is from Rachel Nichols. The FBI is alleging that Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones were involved in rigging poker games that went way beyond counting cards. Poker chip trays with hidden cameras, special contact lenses to read pre-marked cards, and X-ray tables that read cards while they were face down. And these weren't just allegations; these dudes were taken into handcuffs. And yes, it's definitely a bad look for the NBA, and to be honest with you, it's a bad look for sports altogether. You know, I have a right here. I have a whole segment where I give you my picks. I enjoy sports gambling, but this goes way beyond that. I mean, we're talking about an illegal poker ring, and we're talking about the mafia being involved, and not only NBA players, but a Hall of Fame player in Chauncey Billups, who's now the coach of the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, it's if you go back a couple weeks when we were talking about the Lions and Chiefs game and how we all thought that the Chiefs got over on the Lions, and yes, I caught a lot of heat because I was quote unquote a Lions fan, a whining Lions fan over a Week 6 game, but it people have been thinking this for a long time that sports are rigged, especially the NFL. I mean, there's you go back a few, handful of years, and there's someone, I believe it was Arian Foster said that yes, the games are rigged. There's a script for every season, and once you introduce sports betting in, and I completely understand the monetary side of this because that's a lot of revenue coming into the NFL, into the NBA, MLB, NHL, college football, regardless, and just the number of sports books. And so I get the financial ramifications of this. I just, it was something that was bound to happen. And everyone's saying that, this is the worst thing ever. All sports are rigged. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for one bit. But one thing I do believe is that this was bound to happen. And ironically enough, Adam Silver was on Pat McAfee either yesterday or the day before, talking about how they thoroughly investigate these things to help prevent them from happening or prevent them from getting out like this. And I have to, when talking about this, I got to bring up Stephen A. For those of you that are new to the program, I'm not a huge Stephen A. fan. Him and Skip Bayless and Colin Cowherd are three of my most disliked sports personalities on TV, the internet, regardless. But him saying that this was revenge for President Trump, I think, is completely ridiculous. And we're definitely not getting political here on the show because this is sports talk, not politics. But it's just asinine that this type of thing brings out the worst in people. I get it. Money does that. Greed gets that. And I have a very good feeling that this is not going to be the end of this. I mean, there's rumors that LeBron's involved in this. And then there's folks that are saying that, this took years. So Stephen A., hate to admit it, but this investigation started when Biden was in office. Even Joe Blow Turbo can get that information. So, and yet when Ohtani's interpreter was caught, Ohtani was deemed innocent within like 3 or 4 days. So there's a lot of folks wondering where the disconnect is, and I totally get it. I totally get it. And I have a very good feeling, even if LeBron is, which at this state, nothing would shock me, but at what point is too much money enough money? And it just doesn't seem like it's worth, the juice isn't worth the squeeze at that point. But like I said, greed drives a lot of people. And I'm not putting the allegation that LeBron is involved in any way, shape, or form of this, but it's been flirted around on Twitter. So I just wanted to kind of bring it up. And there's a lot of people that want answers, and I totally understand that. But like I said, I have a feeling it doesn't just stop here. And I'm not going to say, unfortunately, for the folks that were arrested today, they're going to be made an example of. And it wouldn't shock me if Chauncey is taken out of the Hall of Fame and banned from basketball altogether. So, kind of the whole Pete Rose type of thing. So, like I said, I'm not going to say unfortunately for the folks that were caught, because you're doing illegal shit. You're doing, fixing points and not necessarily points, but stats. You tell everyone to bet the under, and then you play for 5 minutes, and then, oh, I'm hurt. So, of course, your under's going to hit. So, like I said, it was something that in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is bound to happen. But the whole poker thing is just wild to me. It's just absolutely wild. So, and again, anytime you get involved with the mafia is probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea. Someone should make a t-shirt that says that. But ironically enough, this is from Dan Wolkin. This is from today. He said, reminder that yesterday the NCAA voluntarily loosened the rules to allow college athletes to bet on pro sports. Yesterday. So it's one of these, because I have a very good feeling that the NBA is going to be as tight on this shit moving forward as possible. And I think it's going to force every other league that's involved with any type of sports gambling to have to follow suit. Because not only is this, we've seen some NFL players get caught in team facilities placing wagers on sports other than football, which during the season is not allowed, especially within team facilities. We've seen baseball players. We saw that Class A for the is pretty much done. So it has been coming in little by little. this is kind of the, I'm not going to say the straw that broke the camel's back, but now you have legitimate proof, and it's been made public. And I think it's what's even fueled this to be taken more seriously is the FBI. The FBI is involved. I mean, how often is Kash Patel on ESPN? And ironically enough, when ESPN was live during First Take this morning, I don't know if you guys and gals caught this, but they're going over this story because it was breaking news. And in the bottom right hand corner is their ESPN Bet logo down here. And as Greeny's talking, the camera goes to a different angle. All of a sudden, that little symbol isn't there. So nice try, ESPN. Don't know what you're trying to hide, but people aren't dumb. People aren't dumb. The name of your sports book is ESPN Bets. Okay, can't hide that. Can't hide that. All right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, not because it's the biggest story in sports right now, and it just so happened to happen this morning. One of the benefits of doing a Thursday show rather than Sunday, so I had to capitalize on it and kind of give you my thoughts and kind of everything involved in that. But let's get to some other news, some happy news. This is from Foreplay over on Twitter. The boys at Good Golf will be the title sponsor of a FedEx Fall event next season. The Good Championship will be in Austin, Texas next November, presented by Chevrolet. And the reason I brought this up is, for those of you that don't know, Good is a YouTube channel. There's a whole cast of characters on it, led by a gentleman named Garrett Clark. And these guys are legitimate golfers, but are they PGA golfers? No. They like to have a little bit more fun. And up until I think it was last year, not this last season, maybe the season before, Callaway sponsored a lot of these YouTube golfers. And we've been seeing this come along slowly. I mean, Phil Mickelson has his own channel. Bryson has his own channel. There's a lot of these PGA and live golfers that are having their own channels. And we've seen Phil work with Grant Horvat, who's another YouTube golfer who is a phenomenal golfer. And those two team up against, two other people. And it's just a lot of fun. And I, for one, follow a lot of these channels and thoroughly enjoy their content. I just don't understand in the world of golf why these internet golfers or YouTube golfers are hated so much. Like in something that should be groundbreaking, where a YouTube channel is sponsoring a golf event or any sporting event that's a professional event, and just getting so much hate. I maybe I'm not a golf purist. I don't know. But to me, it seems silly. They're the title sponsor of a PGA event. Is it going to discredit the PGA event for whoever wins it? Absolutely not. Not one bit. It's not like they're doing best ball or any. It's a PGA Tour event. And for me, it looks like it gives me the impression that it's that next step to make YouTube golfers a little bit more legitimate. And I just don't see why there's so much hate. I really don't. So Garrett, Bubby, all those guys over at good on you guys. I cannot wait to see the content leading up to that, as well as some of the behind the scenes, as well as watching the tournament itself. So. And like I said, we're going to get into the World Series, but there's some things I wanted to point out, kind of general baseball related, not so much related to the World Series itself. But this is from Sleeper Dodgers. It's funny that everyone blames the Dodgers for ruining baseball. Meanwhile, the Pirates haven't signed a free agent to a multi-year deal since Ivan Nova in 2016. LOL. And he's right. And we as a podcast and we as a baseball media have all drug Pittsburgh through the mud because they have the golden goose. They have Paul Skeens. And they surround him with nobody. Nobody. And not if you look at that team, they're just a couple bats away from actually being legitimate. Their starting pitching is amazing. Their hitters are terrible. Terrible. So yes, the Pirates have been getting a lot of heat. And one episode, 2Ks and I were talking, and we said, because the impending lockout in 2027 is going to be about a salary cap. And from what I've heard and been told is that you can't have a salary floor without a salary cap, which I don't understand why. But I guess there's folks smarter than me that know the ins and outs of baseball arbitration way better than I do. But it would make sense that teams would have to pay at least a certain amount to field a good product on the field. And what I really don't understand, especially in Pittsburgh, is that town is amazing for baseball. That stadium is beautiful. I have been there in person. And I just can't wrap my head around the fact that, yes, you're paying a little bit more for players, but the better your team is, the more tickets you sell, the more concessions you sell, the more jerseys you sell, the more everything you sell. And get this, if you make the playoffs, you play more games, meaning you have the opportunity to, like Toronto's seeing right now, is gouge the hell out of folks for playoff tickets. And they're going to be eating and drinking and buying souvenirs and jerseys and everything else that a normal person would, but in playoff mode. And hell, you can make special playoff merch. Whoa, what an idea. Especially in a town like Pittsburgh that loves the Pirates. Well, most of them love. People love the Pirates. People hate the owner. So, and I'm by far not a billionaire or a have nearly the money to buy a sports team, but if you invest in your product in any type of business, the more successful your product is, the more successful you become, which means the more money you make. So I totally agree here. I totally agree. And we'll save that one. Let's go to the World Series. Let's go to the World Series. The LA Dodgers versus the Toronto Blue Jays. And what's really cool is back in the early 2000s, I actually got to go on the field. It was the Sky Dome back then, not the Rogers Center. And actually got to stay in one of the rooms where you could look over the field. So haven't been there since probably 2003, 2004, somewhere in there. But it is a very cool experience to be, have a window overlooking the field in your hotel room. So it's really cool to see that those are still there and that people are going to be able to experience that in a World Series setting, which hasn't seen the World Series since Joe Carter hit the walk-off in Game 7. So you have the team that hasn't been there since the 90s, which they won back-to-back back then, remember that, and the team that just won it last year. And when I was getting to the point of David versus Goliath, if you look at payroll, it's not David versus Goliath by any means. It's experienced dudes versus not really experienced as far as playoffs go. But the thing that I am most stoked about is these are two teams on fire. Vladdy Jr. is on another level. So is Shohei. And the pitching staff for both teams has been phenomenal. The only kind of downside is the Dodgers have been able to rest, whereas the Jays had to go 7. So where's fatigue going to land? We've got Blake Snell versus Trey Yasage, excuse me, going tomorrow night. And Yasage, if I'm not mistaken, started the year in single A or double A against a grizzled vet in Blake Snell. And Blake Snell himself has had a phenomenal run through these playoffs, whereas before this season, he was only going a max of 5 innings in every, he hadn't gone over 5, it was either 5 or 6 innings in his whole entire career until this postseason, which he has been lights out. Now, there are some in the camp that feel that maybe Snell really wasn't that hurt. Maybe Glasnow really wasn't that hurt. And it's a little bit easier to play a half a season rather than a full season. I'm not believing any of this. This is more conspiracy fodder. And it is what if you believe that's what's happening in LA, go for it. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. But it did seem like in all season, it was supposed to be the Dodgers in the World Series. Dodgers or Phillies. And we really didn't know who was going to come out of the AL. Now, personally, I was pulling for Seattle. I think Cal Raleigh in the World Series and that starting staff in particular would have matched up amazingly with this Dodgers lineup. But when you get in that Game 7, especially down one, 9th inning, Cal Raleigh is on deck, and J-Rod strikes out. But J-Rod hit a bomb that game too, so it's kind of hard to be like, I guarantee he wanted to be the guy just as much as Cal wanted to be the guy, and that whole team wanted to win. I guarantee it. But it does kind of stink when your hottest guy, potential AL MVP, does not get to the plate in the 9th inning to either go ahead or tie. So I totally get it. It's kind of a bummer, but kudos to the Mariners. I mean, they had one hell of a season, and towards the end of the season, we saw the Jays and the Mariners be 1-2 in the American League. So it shouldn't have shocked anyone to have those two teams playing in the CS. Let's get some takes here. This is from Red Sox payroll, and this is kind of mind-blowing. Clayton Kershaw career earnings $315 million. Yoshinobu Yamamoto's first contract $325 million. Now, granted, two very different times when Kershaw started compared to payrolls now, but it just kind of puts things into perspective. And I just saw a tweet before we went live that Kershaw will be on the World Series roster, which is kind of cool. And he deserves it. In a season where I think a lot of us just thought he would get the starts to get to 3,000 strikeouts, he was like their second best pitcher all year. So he deserves to be on that World Series lineup. Let's, and one other one here. This one blows me away. This is from Brian Hawk. Don Mattingly is going to his first World Series. Let that sink in. Donnie Ballgame was one of the best baseball players of his era. And it's kind of hard to believe that when he was with the Yankees stunk. The Yankees were bad. And if you look at his career and then his coaching career and the places he's been, that this is his first World Series, kudos to you, Donnie. Kudos to you. And I just think it's awesome. Let's see here. All right, let's get some Mariners takes here. This is from Codify. The Seattle Mariners didn't go 5 straight games this regular season without striking out at least 8 batters once. The Mariners didn't strike out 8 Blue Jays batters in any of the 7 ALCS games. And not only that, but the Blue Jays I think they struck out the fewest in baseball this year. So yes, the Dodgers starting staff and their whole pitching staff period is electric. But if I had to pick between the Mariners starting 5 and the Dodgers starting 5, I think I would kind of lean towards the M's on this one. And yes, we had the amazing game by Shohei, which we'll get to. Snell's been nails. Everyone on that staff has just been lights out. But they haven't faced this red hot Jays lineup. So that's what I'm pumped about. That's what I'm pumped about. Another one here from Gabrielle Starr. What a series, what a comeback for the Jays. Awful for the Mariners, who came closer to the World Series than ever and remain the only MLB team to never reach it. Just kind of sad to say. Kind of sad to say. But let's flip the script and let's talk about the Jays. This is from the Jay Hay Kid himself, the Nugget Chef. In 2025, the 2025 Toronto Blue Jays are the only team in MLB history to win a best-of-7 postseason series after losing the first 2 games at home and while being down in the 7th inning or later of Game 7. Just goes to show you how relentless this team is. And George Springer, who would have thought, on a bum knee, 3-run jack, puts him up, and it ends up being the difference in the game. And just the resurgence that dude's had. I mean, hit over 300 all season, has had some timely hits in the postseason, and to kind of revive his career almost. And if you remember, I believe it was Game 6, he got drilled Game 5 or 6, gets drilled in the knee and is kind of hobbling around, still able to do that. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. This is from Brian Swain. The Toronto Blue Jays are the first team in MLB history to have a pitcher over the age of 41 and a pitcher under the age of 23 win a start in the same series. Talking about Yasich and Scherzer. Let's go to the MLB account. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. during his MVP ALCS series. 10 for 26, which is a 385 average, 3 home runs, 22 total bases, 1.33 OPS. All of those are amazing. And come to think, he was 0 in the first 2 games. So basically, all of those stats were from 5 games. And then rewind to the DS. Dude was on fire. On fire. And this is the total postseason. This is just baseball. Vladdy's unreal postseason, 17 for 38, which is a 447 average, 6 homers, 12 RBIs, 10 walks, 2 Ks, in a 1.51 OPS. Now that's a $500 million superstar. And I've got to say, I was one of the ones saying that, did Toronto overpay? Would anyone else have given Vladdy Jr. $500 million in the open market? I don't think so. Maybe after this performance, yes, but prior to, no. So good on the Blue Jays. Rewind back to Ohtani. Ohtani was supposedly on the plane, ready to sign his deal. And then they were in the Juan Soto sweepstakes this last winter. It's like they had the money ready, and no one would take their money. And Vladdy said, "I'll take it." And this is what he's giving you. This is what he's giving you. And I for one, I'm for it. I'm for it. Kind of sucks that he didn't end up with my Red Sox, but it is what it is. And I know we've been kind of blowing the AL here, but this cannot have a show without talking about Ohtani. This is from Jeff Passan. Shohei Ohtani homered again, dead center off Trevor Miguel. He has 3 home runs tonight. He threw 3 1/3 shutout innings and struck out 10. This is one of the greatest individual performances in postseason history. Jeff, I'll go one better. Name me an individual performance in any sporting event, not just baseball, not just postseason, any. And I can't really think of one. I can't. I can't think of one because in what sporting event do you do both things when you're playing offense and defense? I mean, Travis Hunter does, but he's not having 250 yards, 15 receptions and 4 touchdowns and then 2 pick sixes. That would that might be the only equivalent we can kind of draw. Someone online said, "Explain this to me in golf terms," and I can't remember which PGA course that they cited, but it said it's like shooting 10 under the front nine with your right-handed, the back nine with your left hand with left-handed. Okay, I could see that, but no one's doing that. No one's doing that. And if you rewind, I've been standing on the soapbox saying if I were the Dodgers, I wouldn't have him pitch. And hand up, I was wrong. I was wrong. Dodger fans, I would enjoy it while it lasts because I'm not so sure how much longer it will last. But if you keep shoving like that, who knows? Who knows? So let's get into some brass tacks here, 2K crew. These odds are all from FanDuel. They have the Dodgers at minus 230 to win the World Series. If you want to take the Jays, it's plus 190. And I kind of wanted to see where everyone was feeling about how many games this would go, because I personally don't have a dog in the fight. I'd like to see it go 7. There's no better words in sports than game 7. And the over-under is set at 5.5 games. If you want the over, it's minus 156. If you want the under, it's plus 135. So 4 and 5 games, you're getting plus 132. 6, 7, you're getting minus 156. So I took a step farther. And now, if you wanted to go that route, you don't have to choose who wins. But if you wanted to predict that it would be a sweep, regardless of team, you're looking at plus 550. If you wanted to go 5 games, plus 256. 6 games, plus 210. And to go game 7 is plus 235. So it looks like everyone's kind of banking on this going 6, judging by what the numbers are telling us. Like I said, I would love this. I'd love this to go 7. And might as well give you my pick because we are it's before the series starts, and give me Toronto in 7. I'm calling the upset, game 7. Love it. Probably be Jays or the Dodgers in 5, but give me the Jays in 7. Give me the Jays in 7. And I was going to go over some pitching matchups, but they don't have a whole lot of them listed here. So I kind of threw that whole little segment off. But speaking of segments, let's go to the power rankings. Let's go to power rankings. Let me flip my notebook here. Last week we had Bills 5, Lions 4, Pats 3, Bucks 2, Colts 1. Now, yes, there is some movement on this. There is some movement. There's some major movement on here. There's some teams that weren't on here. There's some teams that fell off. So let's get into it. I got the Eagles at 5. That last game, they answered a lot of questions against a Minnesota team that, like I said, they're playing right now, however, with Carson Wentz, which can either be a good or a bad thing. And a lot of times good and bad in the same game. But I think all of us were waiting for Jalen Hurts to kind of let it loose. And boy, did he ever. A.J. Brown had a big game. Devontae Smith had a big game. And was definitely his first game over 300 yards passing this season. And it took him to week 7. Still haven't seen Saquon Barkley kind of get on track yet. And I think it's kind of silly for anyone to think that he would be able to replicate last season, especially considering how unique last season was. But they win. They win. And as it sits right now, oh, shit. As it sits right now, they're 5-2, sitting atop the NFC East. Cowboys are kind of on a surge. The Commanders, I don't know how to feel about them. Daniels is out again this week, and the Giants are 2-5. We'll get into the standings here in a little bit, but yeah, give me the Eagles at 5. 4, I know I'm going to take some heat on this. Give me the Broncos. Give me the Broncos. They're 5-2, sitting atop the AFC West, just ahead of the Chargers and Chiefs. The Raiders are 2-5. Do I think that, and the power rankings is as of today, October 23rd. The Chiefs are definitely playing better, and I'm getting a lot of heat about why they're not on my top 5. And just because you have a couple good weeks and it looks like the Chiefs are the Chiefs once again, I need to see more. By the end of the season, in a couple weeks, could they play their way onto this list? Absolutely. But as of right now, I have more confidence in the Broncos than the Chargers and the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs are getting healthy, they're getting players back, and you never know. Next week they could slide up into this number 4 spot, but as of this week, I got the Broncos at 4. 3, give me the Pats. I really like this Patriots team. Yes, they played a Titans team and was kind of the Vrabel revenge game, which I get. But when you have a coach like that, kind of like the Lions and Dan Campbell, where the team kind of takes over the attitude of the coach, I love every bit of that. And I've loved Vrabel as a head coach since he started with Houston. No, Titans, sorry. So yeah, I'm a huge Vrabes fan, and I think this Pats team is here to stay, 2K Crew. I really do. And number 2, give me the Lions. What a big win Monday. Big win. And just the way they did it. Love every minute of it. This offense is clicking, probably the best offense in football right now. And I don't really think it's a stretch. Well, there's some stats that would say differently, but as far as the pizzazz and how they do it, they're the most electric offense in football. Maybe not the best statistically, which we'll get to, but if I'm not even a Lions fan, and I love watching this team. Love every minute of it. And at number 1, staying at number 1, the Colts. Colts, for those of you who don't know, Colts have the best record in the NFL right now. And got a couple stats here. Yeah, this is from Sleeper Colts. Colts offense this year, what I just alluded to, 33.1 points per game is first in the NFL. 6.4 yards per play, first in the NFL. Plus 92 point differential, first in the NFL. First downs per game, first in the NFL. Only 12 punts all season, first in the NFL. We're watching something special in Indy. And to be honest with you, I think that I think a lot of us were kind of writing this team off, myself included. Like, oh shit, we got Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes is going to start as a quarterback, even though they've had all the ingredients to be a fantastic football team. There's quite a few people thought that Shane Steichen was, this was going to be the hot seat year. I mean, he was kind of on the hot seat last year, and I think if things didn't go well starting out the season, the temperature on that was just going to get hotter. And we've seen this team come together. We've seen this team do some amazing things, and in a division that is very, very winnable. Very winnable. Texans are pretty much dead. Titans are dead. This Jags team, I have no idea. No idea. But for right now, I'm considering them dead. So let me know which teams you would flip flop, which teams you would add. I did want to give some honorable mentions. The 49ers, can't put them up there. Too many injuries. Even though they're playing fantastic football. But I don't think they could beat any of the teams in the top 5. I don't. We talked about the Chiefs. We've talked about the Chargers. The Packers are kind of sniffing around, even though percentage-wise they have a better record than the Lions. I'm not buying what the Packers are selling. I'm just not. And then the Bucs, injuries galore. Shout out Mike Evans. We see a tremendous start to a career streak come to an end on a broken collarbone and a concussion. That looked nasty. So kudos to him. T's and P's and the quickest recovery possible, because you are one of the best to do it. Even though you definitely don't get all the attention that you deserve. Excuse me. Because you're not a Justin Jefferson, you're not all these top receivers. But you've been doing it and doing it good. All right, let's get into our picks. My picks. Now, for those of you that are new, this is a segment called Paycheck and Onions, where I give you 3 games to sprinkle on. I give you a Paychecks pick, which is the pick I'm most confident in that I would lay a whole paycheck on, which I don't. And then an Onions pick, which is the ballsiest pick of the week. This week was kind of hard to pick one of the ballsiest ones. But let me give you the sprinkles. I've got, Missouri at Vandy. I believe that's where game day is. Haven't really bought into this Missouri team. Great running game, I get it. This Vandy team is hot, even though they just lost a couple weeks ago to Alabama. But we're 2 plays away from two plays deep in their territory. 2 costly turnovers that pretty much flipped the game. But against a Mizzou team, give me Vandy minus 2.5. Browns at Patriots. This Browns team stinks. We talked about the Pats in the Power 5. Give me Pats minus 6.5 there. And Texas A&M going to LSU. Now, this is a big game for Brian Kelly and his boys. But this Texas A&M team is far too good. Give me them minus 2.5. Give me them minus 2.5. And paycheck pick. Virginia at UNC. This UNC team is one of the worst teams in college football. The fact that Virginia is only having to give 10.5 seems like a travesty. This should be a very easy pick. This should be a very easy game for Virginia to win. I will give the 10.5 with Virginia. And the Onions pick. Don't know why this line is the way that it is. Bears at Ravens. And we've seen Lamar back a little bit at practice. But I made this list, I believe, on Tuesday or Wednesday. It was Tuesday. And I wrote down the odds that everything was on Tuesday, and Lamar hadn't been out to practice yet, and it was still 6.5. And I'm like, how? So maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe there's something I don't get. This Ravens defense is the worst defense in the NFL. This Bears offense is they're carving out their identity under Ben Johnson. So yeah, give me the Bears. Give me the Bears and the 6.5. You're going to give me points on that? Absolutely. And yep, after last week, we're 12-13. So we're down 1 unit. We got to stop going 2-3. 2K crew. We got to stop that. Hell, we started out this segment at 4-1. Now we're at 12-13. So the ebbs and flows of the gambling world. But so yeah, Vandy -2.5, Pats -6.5, Texas A&M -2.5, Virginia -10.5. Would probably take them -15.5 if you want to juice it that much, and then Bears +6.5. So there is paycheck and onions, and 12-13 really isn't that bad. It really isn't that bad. Let's take a look at the NFL slate for this week. Actually, let's talk about the standings here a little bit. Let's talk about the standings here. Well, before we get into that, there is one tweet before I really get into this. This is a tough one. 2K crew. Now, this is from FanDuel, which all of our odds are from FanDuel. Not sponsored, would love to be sponsored. But they say start one, bench one, cut one. How does this play out? And they have Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, and Christian McCaffrey. This is tough. These are arguably the 3 best running backs in football right now. And my opinion, yeah, I got to start Gibbs. I got to bench Bijan, and I'm cutting CMC. And it has nothing to do with how, like, CMC is a very good running back, both running the ball, catching the ball. We've even seen him throw touchdowns. And doing what he's doing behind, with all the quarterback out, George Kittle out, half their team is out. It's remarkable. But the only way I can kind of wrap my head around this is if I'm starting a franchise today, give me Jahmyr Gibbs, then Bijan, then McCaffrey. And I think with this one, 2K crew, you really can't, there really isn't a bad start one, bench one, cut one. Because everyone's going to have their favorite. And if you told me you're going to start CMC, okay. You're going to start Bijan, okay. So it's one of those, it's kind of a brain scratcher, but I really don't think there's a wrong answer to that one. And I did want to take some time with this. This is from Colorado Jolene. This is wild, she says. And let's see here. The Broncos were down a grip load until the fourth quarter. And they were honoring Demaryius Thomas that game, and Demaryius Thomas passed away at age 33 in his Ring of Fame induction game. The Broncos scored 33 points in the fourth quarter, had 2 8-point drives, a nod to 88. Defense recorded 33 solo tackles, started game-winning drive with 33 seconds left. He was there. I think that's pretty cool. But let's get into the standings. Let's do standings first. AFC East, we talked about that. Pats 5-2, Bills 4-2. The Dolphins and Jets are dead. They have 1 win between the two. Steelers, AFC North, Steelers 4-2, Bengals 3-4, Browns 2-6, Ravens 1-6. South, AFC South, Indiana, the Colts 6-1, Jags 4-3. Like we said, Houston, Tennessee are dead. AFC West, we talked about them. Broncos 5-2, Chargers 4-3, Chiefs 4-3, Raiders probably selling everybody at 2-5. NFC East, Eagles 5-2, Cowboys 3-1, Commies 3-4, and the Giants 2-5. Which the Giants, I know there's a lot of Giants fans that are very upset. But you guys have two guys. Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo are two very good players. And I really do hope that they give Daboll some time with them. I really do. I know it's a New York team, so they're all just pushing the explode button right now, but step away from the button. Everything's going to be fine. NFC North, uh, Packers 4-1-1, Lions 5-2, Bears 4-2, Vikings 3-3. The only division where every single team is over five is at least 500 or above. NFC South, Bucks 5-2, Panthers 4-3, Falcons 3-3, Saints are dead. NFC West, 49ers 5-2, like we talked about. Seattle 5-2, Rams 5-2, and the Cardinals 2-6. And that Rams team is creeping closer to that power to the top five. For a quarterback in Matt Stafford, who we thought his back exploded, has been playing very good football, really good football, and even without Puka Nacua, it doesn't matter. They got the job done. So that's the standings, 2K crew. So I did have some other tweets here. What is this one? Speaking about the Colts, Sam Block, Colts scored 41 versus the Titans, 40 versus the Raiders, which you might be saying, Turbo, these are shit teams. These are shit teams. 38 versus the Chargers, 33 versus the Dolphins, 31 versus the Cardinals, and 29 against the Broncos. And y'all still don't believe in Daniel Jones. So there's two legit teams on there that they've hung, at least 38 and 29 against. And a lot of people had the Broncos being the best defense in football in the preseason. So this isn't just a fluke. They're beating up on the teams that they should beat up, and then they're still scoring a lot of points against really good teams. So Daniel Jones is, I hate to say it, he's the real deal. And now the question becomes is if he continues this season the way he's going. He only signed a 1-year deal in Indy. Indy has to extend him, right? But what's the price tag going to look like? That's the part I'm really interested in. And we talked a little bit about the Cowboys. They're seeming to play some good football. And to kind of, there's a couple OG Turbo and 2K crew that are Cowboys fans, and I have taken every single opportunity to make fun of them as often as I can. But this is from Dan Rogers. For the first time in their 66 years of existence, the Dallas Cowboys have gone 4 straight games without turning the ball over. Now let's put that into perspective. The teams with Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Jay Novacek, that whole crew has not done in 4 games what Dak and the boys have done. Let that sink in for a little bit. This is the first time in their franchise history of 66 years that Cowboys team has gone 4 consecutive games without a turnover. And now there's rumors that Jerry's sniffing around wanting to trade for Max Crosby. Sure. Okay. This whole thing could have been just out of the way if you would have paid Micah Parsons. Just saying. And got some Packers tweets here. Let's get these out of the way. This is from Robin Adams. The Packers have not won a game in Pittsburgh since Bart Starr was the starting quarterback. Now we'll get into a little bit more of that in the matchups, but this is a big one. This is Aaron Rodgers against the Packers, and add to that what the Packers haven't beaten the Steelers since Bart Starr. Just kind of elevates things a little bit more. Kind of makes it, gets the juices flowing just a little bit more. I got a couple more Packer tweets. This is from Titletown Talks. Now, Titletown Talks is a Packer person. Like they're Packers fans. A coach's job is to develop players. Not saying Matthew Golden has to be a superstar in year one, but through 6 games, MLF hasn't schemed up a single red zone target for his first round wide receiver. Draw up a touchdown, get your rookie's confidence going. That's literally your job. Rewind back to when Rodgers was there. He was the one saying, "Why are you not getting me first round weapons?" Matthew Golden's the first round receiver they've had in I don't know how long, forever. And yes, Golden was a stud at Texas last year. And for those of you that drafted him on your fantasy team, has kind of been, I'm not going to say a bust, but everything's just been kind of lackluster up to this point. And Title Talk has a point. Has a point. And I'll even take that a full step further that Jordan Love really hasn't played up to his potential this year either. So when your quarterback is struggling or not playing up to what we thought, there's a lot of people picking him for MVP this year, and he has not played even close to an MVP caliber of football. So when your quarterback isn't playing up to par as most people thought he would, your receivers aren't going to be playing that as well. And I, for one, think it's awesome he's not wearing the Guardian cap. Let Romeo Doubs do that, because it seems like, or maybe he should, because Jordan Love finds Romeo Doubs more often. Maybe it's because you can see his big ass head. But they're not wrong. They're not wrong at all. Not wrong at all. I got one more Packers tweet here. And before I get into this, a friend of ours is actually married to Matt LaFleur. So this is a running joke between not only us, our friends group, but the internet seems to enjoy it as well. This is from Kurt Benkert. LaFleur shouldn't be allowed to get his eyebrows done anymore until his offense starts scoring more than 14 points in the first half of games. Love it, Kurt. Absolutely love it. Because it's not just us as a friends group that point out how meticulous everything is. Every time he goes on Pat McAfee, Pat says something about it too. So it's not just us that realizes it, but now the internet does too. Now the internet does too. Let's go over this slate. Like I said, we got Minnesota, LA right now. I believe LA's up 14-0. They're at commercial right now. Miami at Atlanta. Don't care. Jets at Bengals. See if Joey Flack can keep spinning it. It's hard to believe that Jamar Chase has the most receiving yards out of anyone, and had Joey B for 2 games. We talked about Cleveland at New England, Giants at Philly. Philly should roll that one. Buffalo at Carolina. This Carolina team isn't terrible like they have been. So Buffalo going into Carolina. I believe Buffalo was on the bye week last week. So we'll see kind of how that. Buffalo's favored by 7.5. So, but Chicago at Baltimore. We talked about that. The line is still at 6.5. Still at 6.5. Niners at Houston. Somehow Houston is a 2.5 point favorite. I get that everyone on that 49ers team is hurt, but you would think that, give me Niners and the points on that one. Tampa at New Orleans. New Orleans is dead, like we talked about, even though, Tampa did get back Ibuka last week with Evans out again. I have a feeling his usage is going to continue to escalate. Dallas at Denver. That's going to be a good one. Denver's favored by 3.5. See if this Dallas defense has anything to stop Bo Nix and the boys. Tennessee at Indianapolis. Indy's a 14.5 point favorite. Like I said, Tennessee's dead. And Green Bay at Pittsburgh, the 8:20 game on NBC. Green Bay is a 2.5 point favorite here. Green Bay going into Pittsburgh, Sunday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers versus the Packers, must-watch TV. Cannot wait for that. And thank goodness we have only one Monday night game. And if I remember correctly, it's going to be one Monday night game for the rest of the season. Thank you, NFL. You finally listened. However, I have a feeling when the schedule makers put this together, you expected Jaden Daniels versus Patrick Mahomes. And Daniels has been ruled out, so I believe it's Marcus Mariota. And Kansas City is favored by 11.5. Now, historically, when lines are that big, Kansas City tends to not cover. So you take the sneaky Washington and the points, even though you think Kansas City is going to win. Could be a good play there. Could be a good play. Let's switch over to college. Now, we're getting closer and closer and closer to the first playoff rankings. So once we get a little closer, I'll probably put together Turbo's top 12 and maybe the first two out. But until then, I'm really not putting a whole lot of who's number one, who's number two. Not yet. Not yet anyway. And it is week 9. I get that. But let's see here. For those of you degenerates who are probably watching South Alabama at Georgia State. Let's see, Friday, Boise State, Nevada. All right. Let's get into Saturday. Sneaky game to start off with. Sneaky game. UCLA at Indiana. Does this fairy tale with UCLA continue? We shall see. Or does Cignetti just drop dick and just kill these guys? I think the latter is probably what's going to happen here. IU's favored by 25.5. But what was Penn State favored by? Probably 24.5, if I remember right. That might be something. I'd have to look to see what the sprinkle a little morsel of UCLA money line on that one. But like I said, it's definitely not. I have a feeling Cignetti's going to, especially at home, have the boys buzzing. Ole Miss at Oklahoma. Oklahoma 5.5 point favorite. This is one I could definitely see Ole Miss winning this game. So that and it's a number 8 versus number 13. Yeah, I get that. Oklahoma's at home. That's one I was wanting to put on my picks, but just I wasn't confident in either one, so I kind of left that one alone. But I'm leaning. Give me Ole Miss and the points on that one. Let's see, Virginia, South Florida. Yeah, Bama at South Carolina could be a sneaky game for Bama. South Carolina always is that weird team that shows up every now and again, and just when you think you have them figured out, they take a gigantic shit. Could be that. Bama's favored by 11.5. Missouri at Vandy. Like I said, we talked about that in the picks. Vandy's minus 2.5. I am very confident in Vandy on this one. Just got to keep that running game of Missouri under control. BYU, Iowa State. This is a closer one I thought. Iowa State's favored by 2.5. So kind of keep your eyes on that one, 2K crew. Illinois at Washington. What? Oof. There's a lot of unranked teams that are favorites here this week. I really didn't look too. There could be some big upsets here. OK State at Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech's going to bounce back big on this one. Yeah, they're favored by 36.5. That's a lot of points. Texas at Mississippi State. See if Arch can get the boys rolling a little bit more proficiently. Wisconsin at Oregon. Oregon's 31.5. I think Luke Fickell's time in Wisconsin is ticking down, 2K crew. Stanford at Miami. Miami's 30.5 point favorite on that one. Stanford team's terrible. We talked about A&M at LSU. A&M is still a 2.5-point favorite. And so, one that's local here, which I'm glad is a 7:30 game. Big brother versus little brother, Michigan at Michigan State. This game, it's living in Michigan, we've got to experience this rivalry, over and over and over and over and over again. And if you ask certain people, this really isn't a rivalry because each team has to win for there to be a rivalry. But here's the thing. Every now and again, this Michigan State team comes out of nowhere and sneaks one out against Michigan. Do I think that happens this year? Absolutely not. I would be floored if Sparty sneaks this one out against Michigan. Michigan's ranked 25. I just don't see it. I don't see it, but that's usually when something like this, some weird shit like this happens, is when it's like this. So yes, this game will definitely be on in the Turbo household, and most likely it'll be Michigan 42, Michigan State 10. But it could very well be Michigan State 28, Michigan 24. It's just how this rivalry goes. You can never tell who's going to win, no matter who's ranked, who's favored, where it's at. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. The only thing I do know is Kirk Cousins is not walking through that door in East Lansing. Tennessee at Kentucky. Tennessee 8.5-point favorite. And Houston at Arizona State. Arizona State plus 7.5. So that is the slate here. And like I said, we'll get into some of the rankings here a little bit later on, probably in the next couple weeks. Because there's teams that have losses, but yet are undefeated in the conference. So when you look at the conference rankings, you're like, how in the hell is this team number one in the conference, but they have 2 losses? Well, their losses came out of conference. So it's kind of hard to judge right now. Who's good, who's not good. So I don't even put time into, the only reason we go by the rankings is because that's normally 2 of the better teams matching up that week. But actually putting anything into it, I'm just not that type of guy to do that this early in the season. But yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there, 2K crew. We are getting there. I think that, let me double check all my goodies here. Yep, we did. I'm going to put this one up one more time. Let me know who you start, who you bench, who you cut. Because like I said, I guarantee if you ask 10 different people, you'll probably get 3 different or 4 different responses. There really isn't going to be an overwhelming number one, I don't think. I know if you go back to your fantasy draft, you would rather take all 3 of these guys prior to Saquon Barkley. But that's fantasy, baby. That's fantasy. All right, 2K crew. I'm gonna get out of here. We've had our time together for the week. Everyone have a great week. Let me know, like I said, let me know your Power 5. Let me know your paycheck and onions. It's really kind of cool to see some people riding with me on some of these. Some saying going the exact opposite, which 12 and 13, you'd be 13 and 12 if you did that. So you would be money ahead. But that's gambling. That's gambling. All right, I will get you out of here on this. Everyone have a great week, and I will see you next week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.